Hey everybody, it's Vanessa, the Crafty Gemini. Welcome to episode number 185 of WIP Wednesday. We are back for another Wednesday, another live chat here. Before we get started with today's show, and I am just going to be cutting out the pieces that I need for a new long sleeve sweatshirt for a toddler. So we'll talk about the pattern in a minute. But let's pop into the chat and make sure that everyone can see me and hear me. I'm happy because I can see my chat, so I see all of y'all on here. Margie, tell your mom I say hi. I hope she's doing well. Hey, Jackie. Yes, Jackie says this pattern that I'm going to be cutting out in a second, she says it's her most used pattern. She has 15 hoodies with more in the works and many of the long and short sleeve shirts and sweaters. It is. It's a super versatile pattern. Let's see. Hi, Tracy. Thanks for tuning in. Hey, Janet. Hey, Marty. Hey, Jean. Hey, Rebecca. Hi, Nancy. And you, everything is going good over there? Okay. Oh, good. Hey, Laura. Hi, Miss Lynette. Yes, I know 185 episodes is kind of wild. But now that everybody can see me and hear me and my cameras seem to be working, let's go ahead and give everybody the over-the-shoulder camera shot so I can show you how cute and teensy the little pieces are. So y'all have heard me say a million times before that these Jalie patterns have a bunch of sizes. This one in particular has 28 different sizes. I have a video course on this pattern. Many of us since last year, since I released that course, have been making a ton of these, myself included. This Laurent, I can't remember, did I make this on camera or I maybe added the neckband? I did something with this shirt on camera or at least cut the pieces out last year. This was supposed to be a t-shirt for my husband. But because the pattern calls for knit fabrics that have only, well, you know, a minimum of 15% stretch along the crosswise grain, and I use the cotton spandex fabric here that has way more than that stretch in the crosswise and the lengthwise, I was able to fit into it even though I didn't cut out my size. So this is the t-shirt version, the shirt that I'm wearing here. So for those of you, and I wanted to wear this one today just because I'm cutting out these pieces and to let you know, because sometimes I'm talking about, say, a class on a t-shirt, you know, whether it's the Bobby, the Westchester Dolman top, something like that. And people will always ask, if the shirt has like a short cap sleeve, they'll say, can we make the sleeves longer? I like to cover more of my arms. Sometimes if it's a V-neck shirt or it's like a low scoop neck, they'll ask, can we make the, can we change the pattern and make the neckline higher? So literally all those specific requests and inquiries that I get for other patterns that are not designed with the longer sleeve and the higher neckline, this one is. Okay, the pattern is unisex, so you can, and I'm glad that in the little circle shot here, picture in picture, you can see what I'm trying to show you. The sleeves are longer and the neckline is higher up. It's more like a crew neckline, okay? So those of you that are looking for t-shirts like that, check out this pattern because you can see you have all the coverage here in the front and all the coverage here almost to my elbow. And this is a size that's like a couple sizes smaller than the size that I cut myself when I make the sweatshirt and the hoodies in this. I think I usually cut the AA, and this, I want to say this was a size X. It's like in the middle of the medium ranges. So like for medium men or a medium woman, same difference, you know, I went ahead and did this one for him because it was initially supposed to be for him. Anyways, just so y'all know that if you're looking for the pieces that, you know, are a t-shirt, a regular t-shirt made out of cotton spandex, you can't go wrong with this fabric. And I use the same fabric for the neckline, and the sleeves are longer, so keep that in mind. The link to the video course and the pattern is in the description box below because we do have the hard copy patterns in stock, and I also, like I said, have a step-by-step video course on it. So this, many of you may recall that I actually have a little niece. My first niece, I've yet to meet her. She's, I think, gonna be one soon. But they're going to be coming into town for Christmas Eve. So I'm trying to like make a bunch of little different things that I can send back home with my sister and her husband for their new baby. So we're going to be making a toddler size long sleeve pullover top from the Laurent. Okay, notice I said this was a t-shirt, the one that I'm wearing. There's also a long sleeve it's like a long sleeve t-shirt, like a pullover, right? Kind of depends on what fabric you use. You use more fleecy, sweatshirty type materials, then it's going to be bulkier and it's going to fit more like a sweater. If you just use a cotton spandex fabric, it's just going to be like a long sleeve pajama shirt, almost it looks like, okay? And then of course we have the hoodie, and I think recently, maybe, I don't know, in the last couple weeks that I've done a WIP Wednesday when I was wearing that animal print long sleeve kind of pullover, it was a cropped version, it's the same thing as this. Just the cropped version, but without the hood. And then you can also, of course, do hoodies, which I have made several. So I have some chunks, an off chunk here of this French terry that's tie-dye that has these fun bright colors. I haven't jumped into it. My husband and my son both want me to make them a hoodie, obviously the long sleeve hoodie, out of this fabric. I haven't gone there yet. And I thought about cutting out those pieces today on camera, but of course, as you can imagine, they're just bigger pieces. And I thought, you know what, let me make, because this piece is kind of a smaller chunk of the French terry fabric, which is the same one that they want me to use too. I have enough, so I should be good. I thought, let me make the little one just because look how cute the little pieces are. It's like little doll paper clothes, it feels like. But I wanted to show y'all because you hear me say a lot when I do these Jalie courses that the patterns include 28 sizes. So we always say from a toddler size 2 all the way up to, a woman's size 24, or in this case, since anybody can wear this, it just goes up to an adult size 2X, okay? So I want to, yes, and Lynette says, I love how fabric can change a garment. Absolutely, and that definitely affects. This one is for a toddler size 2, and I'm only making it a size 2. The girl ain't 2 yet, but this is gonna fit her big because what? Why do y'all think this is gonna fit her big? But it's the smallest size I have, and I don't feel like trying to grade down the size 2, so that's what we're gonna get. Kids, they can grow into it. I'm doing the size 2, one, because it's the smallest size included in the pattern, but also because the fabric I'm using, this pattern calls for you to use a fabric that has 15% stretch along the crosswise grain. So quick recap here of knits, okay? Here's my selvage edge. Crosswise in this direction, or dogs, degree of greatest stretch, DOGS, right? Dogs is gonna be this way, perpendicular to the selvage. So if I wanna check to see and make sure that this has at least 15, I know it has a lot more than 15, but this is how we would check it. I pinch the fabric through 2 layers away from the edge in the direction that I'm trying to measure, and then I place it on top of my cutting mat, spanning 4 boxes. 1, 2, 3, 4 boxes. I'm pinching at the beginning and end, and then I'm going to stretch only with my right hand. The left hand stays put. What I'm doing is stretching 4 inches worth of fabric to see how much I can stretch it to. If I can stretch it 1 more box over, 1 box of 4 is a quarter, right? 25%. So right here, that means that this direction so far has 25% stretch. If I can continue to pull it a little bit more to almost 50, I would call it maybe 40, 45% stretch in the crosswise grain. And because the pattern calls for 15, 1-5, and I have 45-ish, that means I'm gonna have a lot more stretch going this way along the body, right? Circumference-wise around bust, waist, hips, whatever, depending on the garment, what it is. So that just means it's going to fit a little bit more loosely because you have more give in that area. So I always share that as a tip because some of you may be at the last, like your ready to wear size might be the last size, like the highest size that the patterns come in. But if you use a stretchier fabric, then you're going to build in a little bit more size in there so that if you're like 1 size up and you don't actually have pattern pieces in your size, you could get away with it by using a fabric that has more stretch. Make sense? Okay. Yes, Windless Original says, I bring my measuring tape to the fabric store and measure the stretch. It's key. I mean, we need to know what we're working with, right? And the same thing goes in the opposite direction, meaning if you have a fabric that you love, 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 you got to use it for this pattern, but it has less stretch than what is called for, then you already know you need to size up. Because if you go with your regular size based on your measurements and how the pattern tells you to choose your size, it's likely going to fit you too tight, okay? Because you're not going to have that give in the area that the pattern needs it, okay? So the other direction we would measure, this is the selvage, and instead of measuring perpendicular to, which I just did, we're going to measure parallel to the selvage, okay? So if this is my selvage edge, I'm just going to come in a few inches and pinch here, fold it, and then place it on a line. I'm going to pinch at the beginning of 1 box, 2, 3, and 4 boxes. I'm pinching at the end of the 4th box, and then we'll stretch. This only has about 20% stretch, maybe 15. But this is the lengthwise grain, right? So that's in the opposite direction. And this pattern doesn't have a specific stretch requirement along the lengthwise grain. So any stretch you get there is just going to give you a little bit more added room vertically hanging on the body. So for example, because this has a little bit of stretch, it's not going to be that much. But say the fabric had like 50% vertical stretch. The chances of the t-shirt, the pullover, the hoodie, and whatever you make fitting or ending up finishing longer than whatever the finished measurements say is very likely, right? Because now gravity is working with the stretch, that vertical or lengthwise stretch of the fabric, and it's gonna allow it to finish longer. So keep that in mind too. I know we're talking about that in my other class in the Jalie Sylvie for the pants and shorts. That also does apply. We have fabric that has more stretch than what the pattern calls for in the vertical stretch, right? It's gonna end up being a little bit longer, so you may not need that much fabric depending on how long you're going to finish them, but usually we end up kind of hemming it a little bit more, like hemming it a little bit shorter to kind of eat up some of that added length that's built in there. Okay. Yes, Lynette says just like in your Sylvie video. Yes, for those of you that are in the Jalie Sylvie class, log into your class. The first batch of 5 videos was already posted on Monday. And then the next batch of videos will be posted this coming Monday, and then the next Monday after, all the rest of the videos will be posted. We do have a live scheduled question and answer session this weekend, so make sure that you check your course calendar if you're in the Sylvie class. That's my new class that you can check out. We are making knit shorts and pants, and I actually made myself a pair of knit pants out of this fabric, so y'all are gonna get tired of seeing this fabric for a bunch of stuff. I might make myself some cropped pants too. Well, we'll see. I gotta make these guys their hoodies first and see if I have enough. All right, so I'm gonna start laying this out here. And then we're gonna just chat a little bit about some similarities and differences between garment sewing and quilting. I know I have a YouTube video that I did years ago talking a little bit about both, and it always cracks me up because my mom, who was a seamstress when she first came to this country, working in, like, what do you call them? Well, she worked in the garment district in New York City, but like in a professional sewing house, right? Huh? Yeah, like in a factory. And so she always laughs at me like she can't believe that I can quilt, because she's like, I don't know how you have patience for quilting. And I feel like a lot of quilters feel this way. They think garment sewing is a lot harder and requires more precision than quilting does. But because I do both, I can kind of see both sides. And I would have to say that, one, it depends on the pattern that you are making the quilt out of, right? Something super simple that doesn't have a lot of seam intersections that meet up, where you have kind of like a heightened level of accuracy that is required from those scant 1/4 inch seams, right? If you have a lot of seams meeting in one spot, everything really has to be precise in order to get that intersection to look like it needs to. Whereas in garment sewing, if you're working with wovens, yes, there is less wiggle room, but you still have the seam allowance, right? You can always rip out the stitches and let a little bit out in the seam, just like people do for alterations. Or if it's a little bit loose, you can always take another line of stitching closer in and kind of bring it and fit it. So it's not that like the entire garment is a flop, right? In quilting, I feel like if you have a lot of blocks and there's one intersection that's off, you're gonna have to take apart a lot more to get down to that one section, and then have to redo all those components if you really are trying to fix it. Where in garment sewing, I feel like we have a little bit more wiggle room. And that's partly one of the reasons I love sewing with knits. The stretchy fabrics, if you're scared of garment sewing because you think, oh, it requires too much precision and I'm not very accurate, definitely try out some stretch knit garments, okay? They're gonna be your bestest friend. Your first one it might not be perfect, it probably won't be perfect, but it'll likely be wearable. You know, where you know the mistakes that are in there, you know where you kind of sewed a little bit off or you messed up a little bit, but chances are people who are looking at you while you're wearing it, they won't even know. Winless Original says, garment sewing is harder because you have to try the clothes on, and that takes time. Well, and that's one part of it, right? You have two-dimensional kind of designing that you're doing with quilting, right? We're looking more at like the construction, how it comes together into like one big flat thing, okay? We're looking at angles and analyzing that kind of stuff, but more like color and how these shapes come together, but it's just still one flat piece. Whereas in garment sewing, you definitely are thinking in the 3D, okay? And so that can be harder. But yes, I feel you. It takes time to try the clothes on. Or don't or like I do a lot of the times. Don't even try it on. Cross your fingers, hope for the best. Then when it's done, you put it on. You're like, oh, I got lucky. It looks good. All right. So Deborah says she likes making my bags. That too. So bags is 3D. It's smaller. Usually takes less time to make. Usually. Not always. Depends on the type of bag. Usually takes less time to make than a quilt. And you don't have to worry about fit, you know? So everything has its pros and cons. So I'm gonna grab these couple pieces. This is how I would lay this out. The Jalie pieces, or the patterns, the way that we trace them off, they're great because look at this. This pattern piece is both pattern piece A2 and B2. And this pattern piece is B1. This is like a little bit confusing when you first start off, but once you start and you have all your patterns there and you've made it multiple times, oh my gosh, this is so helpful to not have like all these different massive pieces and you have to trace out each one separately for how you want it. In other words, we have here the top front and the top back, okay? You can see that the main difference here is if I put this neckline on here, okay, you can see, and if I align it here, that the back neckline is higher up. And that's usually, you know, if it has that kind of a style of a scoop, a little bit more of a scoop neck or a crew neck on the front, the back is a little bit taller, okay? So the lower one is the front. So you see how that goes there, okay? And then the arm's eye is slightly different. So this is just that kind of smaller portion of the top front and the top back. Well, then the rest of it, okay, that gives us the length for whatever it is that we're making for the size we're making is the same. It's just one rectangular piece. So this piece doubles as the bottom of the back as well as the bottom of the front. So it's like one less pattern piece that I had to trace and cut out. Does that make sense? And you usually have these kind of like little notches here that, not notches, I should say, like they're like puzzle pieces for you to lock them in. But when I know they go together, I don't even bother. You know, when I teach it in the class, of course, I show you where each little thing is, but I know that that's going to go there. And then you can see that on this one, I went ahead and marked when I traced it out all the different lines. So this one says lengthen and shorten here. So if I wanted to make this, obviously probably not in a toddler size 2 like this is size F, the smallest size included. But if I wanted to, say I was making it for my husband and my son who have long torsos, I will likely cut the pattern template piece here and extend it like I did. I think I did that for your Nico t-shirts, the Jalie Nicos that I have a free step-by-step sew along on my YouTube channel for. That's a men's raglan t-shirt. And I cut it here and I add length to it so that it can accommodate the length of their torso so that by the time we hem it, the bottom finishes, you know, where they like it to finish instead of being more cropped. Me, I have a little bitty torso. So I usually, if it's cropped, it'll fit me like right at the top of my jeans, which is usually fine. Cropped, if I want to crop it, I definitely need to go further cropped. And if I wanted to go past my hips, I usually just add a little bit more length to it. So this would be my lengthen and shorten line. And then here is a different line for me to cut it if I wanted to add a contrasting color fabric of a hem band. So like if you wanted to add ribbing to the bottom of it, or you're just doing some type of color blocking where the top half of the shirt is one color and then you want the band at the bottom to be another one, that would be a separate pattern piece, which is this hem band here. I'm not going to do it with a hem band, so I'm not going to cut at either one of these. And then down here you can see where I initially cut this piece out, it just says regular hem. So if you want to keep it with the regular hem, you have that option. And then here where you see this little notch is cropped. So I mean, their patterns are really, really well thought out. So they give you a ton of different options, even in the one view. Okay, so this is just the bottom for the front, bottom for the back, and you can decide where you want it. Do you need to lengthen and shorten, crop it, cut here to attach a hemband, or here for the regular hem? And by regular hem, we mean you're gonna cut the fabric to here and then it'll just get turned under and stitched, right? So I wanna preserve as much of that length as possible. All right. Yes, Lynette says they're so precious, the itty bitty pattern pieces. I know, they're so fun and they're such quick makes, which is another great way. I tell my students, you know, if you're just learning to make clothes and you don't really want to start cutting into fabric to make your own clothes, or maybe you feel still a little bit like, I don't want to mess up the fabric. With the Jalie patterns, you can make one of these toddler size versions. So you're not using much fabric and you can just make it as a little sample piece. Even if you don't have anybody to give it to, you can just donate it, but it'll help you learn how to use the pattern, how to go through everything, and how to walk through every step. So that, I think, really helps to give you a little bit more confidence, so then you can go and, you know, choose your size or make it for somebody that's bigger. Okay. Yes, J Frog says, I have the Nico pattern, now I need stretch fabric. That Nico pattern is just a t-shirt, a raglan t-shirt for guys. Cotton spandex. It's going to be the most affordable, inexpensive way for you to go with that. And when I tell you, you can color block because it's raglan sleeves. So like even scrap pieces of a cotton spandex that I had in a different color, I would use for the sleeve parts, and then the front and back a different one. And you can even go in and color block, like match the sleeve color to the neckband. Whatever little pieces that you have, you can absolutely do that with it. It's super beginner friendly. I mean, anybody can sew that one. And I believe it's like 5-part video series. That's a free tutorial series on my YouTube channel. Okay, so you can see what I'm doing here, laying out my pattern pieces. I folded my fabric up along the selvage, okay? Like I pulled the selvage up and folded it there, so it's pretty straight. I don't have any kind of distorting lines, or it's not skewed in any which way direction. So now I have my fold marks here. I can position this all the way over. That's going to be for the regular hem, so I do want to keep all that length. If I was doing the hemband, what I do by transferring these lines is instead of actually cutting there, because then I don't want to have to trace out another original pattern piece, I go like this. This will be my final original pattern template piece. I make all these marks so that then I can tweak them as I need them and use them without messing with the original. In other words, if I wanted to attach a hemband, all I would do was fold on this line. And then I would carefully cut here, making sure that I didn't cut my paper, so that then the next time I used it, I could still decide what I wanted to do. You know what I mean? If I wanted to do a cropped version, I would just fold it up to that notch and cut there, like that, okay? To try and keep as much as possible of the original. And so then this one here. Now, one thing about garment sewing, different from quilting, is that there's way less pattern pieces to cut out, right? Instead of hundreds of little squares or strips or triangles or, who knows, 48 different half square triangles, I just got to cut out a few pieces. So if you are a quilter who's hesitant to try garment sewing, don't be. Because when you do, you're going to be like, that's it? That's all the cutting? Usually in quilting, I have multiple sessions where I'm cutting fabric. And for the garments, you can literally just cut out the pieces one night and keep it moving. The next day, come back and revisit to move on to the next thing. So I'm just double checking what I have here. This is a tie-dye terry, French terry, so I'm not even bothering with like where the splashes of color are. It don't really matter. So notice I use the back piece, and then this is going to be the back. This is the back top. So I'm just going to cut around it. And I put this on my Sew Tights mat just because it's in way better condition than the mat that I have on my table here, and I can easily cut. So if I had my magnetic weights handy, I could have easily put them on here because this is a magnetic cutting mat. And actually, I'm going to swap my rotary cutter because this is a little baby size top. So these curves are tighter than they are on an adult size pattern template piece. So whenever you have curves like this, I find it really easy and a lot more comfortable to cut into the fabric with the 28 millimeter rotary cutter, okay? Because I can take the curved edges a little bit smoother to get more accurate cuts. Now my mom used to just make clothes, and so she always was used to using scissors. I remember years ago, I used to try and get her onto a rotary cutter, and she's like, oh, I don't know how to use that, no thanks. And then I was like, try it. I'm telling you, you're going to be able to cut through more layers. It's faster. And she likes speed and efficiency since she worked in a factory. And once she got the hang of that rotary cutter, she's like, oh my gosh, I could have never gone back to scissors. I'm like, I'm trying to tell you, rotary cutters are everything. So I have a notch there that I just clipped. I have a notch here that I'm going to clip, even though that's the same notch that represents the cropped. We're not doing cropped. We're just cutting that notch so that it matches. And then here I have what is kind of like the Jalie equivalent of a double notch. So I just make 2 slits. And if you are not familiar with why I do my stuff like this, if you sign up for my class, you'll know why. It just makes it a lot easier for me to just cut directly around the piece and not have to fuss with it. So here's the back. Oh my gosh, how cute. It's like a little baby. Y'all, I didn't even try to fussy cut this. You saw me lay out the fabric. This is the back. How cute. I love it when that happens. You see, sometimes you just, don't think too much about it. Cross your fingers and hope for the best. And look, that's like literally like if I would have fussy cut it for the center back. So cute. Okay, so that's my back. I can just set it aside. Boom. That's literally like a quarter of the whole finished garment right there. So easy. Then we're going to use the same bottom piece, right? But now we're going to swap off to get the top, the front, the top front. So I'm going to keep going this way because these fabrics, right, when we're working with these knits, usually they're 58 inches wide. And so I'm going to go like this and just fold up this way so that I'm not eating up width. I mean, I have so much fabric still left here that I think that wasn't even, let me see how much. With less than half a yard of fabric, you can probably make the whole sweatshirt for a couple of the little sizes, Simone says, same for my mom. She loves the rotary cutter now. I'm trying to tell you. And I feel like a lot of us do that too. Any type of, there's like new technology, you're kind of like, I can't wrap my head around it. I don't have time to learn this right now. But if you set aside the time, this goes to y'all who have sewing machines and sergers in a closet somewhere, same thing applies. If you set aside the time and just block off, 2 hours, I'm going to do nothing but mess with this thing for 2 hours, trust, you will walk away from there like, why did I wait so long to give this a go? All right, so I'm laying this one here, fold line still this way, here. We'll see what the front ends up looking like because I'm not trying to fussy cut anything on purpose. Lori's asking about this pattern. This is the Jalie Laurent. It's this one, number 4131. And it's t-shirt, sweatshirt, cropped version, long version, and a hoodie with the kangaroo pocket with the hood. So like any combination that you want to do of those, you can. So say you have like a teenager or somebody who's like really cool and hip and wants to wear a hoodie but wants to have it cropped with the hood, you can do that combo too. It doesn't have to have the kangaroo pocket. It can be a cropped sweatshirt with a hood. So like any combination of those different components, you can absolutely make it. Oh, thank you, Karen. She says, I love your classes. I've learned so much. Learned to make bags, clothes, and some quilting. I'm not a master. Most of us aren't, but we got to enjoy the journey. We get to play with pretty fabrics, and you end up with some really cool makes at the end. Whether they're for you or to give it as a gift or whatever it is, I feel like the whole process, from choosing the fabrics to finishing, the final press, all of it is so fun. All right, let's see. Southern Belle Blessed is asking, what are you using for your pattern weights? So these, great question. These are just washers that I get at the hardware store. And there's going to be some thinner ones, like if you try and find them at any, Home Depot or Lowe's or whatever. These are about 1/8 of an inch thick, and they have some decent weight to them. There are some that are really thin. They're finer than this. Those are just going to slide around. They don't really have much heft to them. And if you find them, I would recommend you get the whole little box. Sometimes they put some individually out front, but like behind it, there usually will be a box, and it comes out a lot cheaper like that. And so if you buy a bunch, you can just do them like this. We've wrapped them in yarn, t-shirt yarn, stretch knit fabrics over the years. People put some of them together. They'll glue them like this, with like construction grade adhesive. They'll glue 2 or 3 so they have like a really hefty, chunky weight. For one layer of fabric like this folded up to cut something on the fold like I'm doing here, they work just fine, just like that. Okay, and because they're pretty flat, I can just throw them in a little dish that I have here and keep it moving instead of having like all these super tall things that I need to have a space for. Okay. Yeah, Lynette says, I stack some of mine and wrap them in ribbon to make them a little heavier. Exactly. Lori says, I love that fabric. I would love to have a sweatshirt with this fabric. Yeah, I think we're sold out of this fabric, huh? Maybe not. If we're not, go ahead and check in the shop at craftygemini.com/shop. Maybe one bundle, he says, might be left. So yeah, just check it out because these are fabrics that we were selling as like the fabric bundle kits to go with the Jalie Sylvie class, since I did make myself some pants on this. All right. So I'm going to I got the front, the bottom, and let me cut around here. Same thing. I'm just going to cut with the little guy, the 28 millimeter. Easy peasy to go around these curves. And you just get so much more accurate cuts with a rotary cutter and a mat, because look what happens when you try to cut with scissors. I mean, when I have the weights, it's not that bad, but if you have pins, it's tricky, right? Because then you have to get this part of the scissors underneath to lift things up, but at the same time, you kind of have to be holding this part down so that it doesn't move from you, and so that the blade is not extending out past where the edge of the pattern template is, It just takes longer. I'm not about that life. Okay. And the same pattern I'm cutting out is a t-shirt that I'm wearing for anybody who's just tuning in. Let me go ahead and cut this out. But the one I'm wearing is a t-shirt version, and I'm going to cut long sleeves for this little one. Okay, so that's the front. So front and back cut out. Let's see what we ended up with in the front, since I didn't fussy cut it. It's tie-dye. It's cute no matter what. That's not bad. I get a little sprinkle of each color. Cute. All right, so that's the front, the back. Let's move on. You can see I still have a ton of fabric left. I love, love, love this. So I'm just keeping on sliding down in the same direction this way. And you know I love a good directional, non-directional print, because for this exact reason. I ain't worrying about matching no lines, no plaids, no nothing. Don't have to make sure, you know, that there's a little character, the text is facing the right direction. I'm just chopping, chopping, and going. Let's see, next piece here. Let's go ahead and cut out the long sleeves for this. It takes long. I'm not about that life. Yeah, you heard me. That's exactly what I said. And it's weird though, because I feel like not in everything that I do am I always looking for the quickest way. Sometimes I'm just like, this isn't the most efficient way, but it's the way I like to do it. I prefer, so I'll just take a little bit longer. There aren't that many things like that because I got to get on with the show. Oh my gosh, look at this little sleeve. How cute. Feels fake. It feels like I'm missing a piece. I'm going to keep sliding this down. You see, I don't really need much here. And we are cutting it on the fold, so I'm just kind of folding this up until I have enough that it's sticking out here that I can cut from without it wasting too much fabric that way. So my fold goes here. Put a couple weights. And that's it. Obviously we need to cut 2. This is just the first one. But man, it's so much faster. And this is with a little blade. Like for the straight edges, it's way quicker to use the larger blades, you know, 45 millimeter or 60. But this pattern piece is so teensy that we can definitely do that. I still keep my scissors handy though, because I use them to cut out my notches. So a notch at the top and a notch right there. That's one. Oh my gosh, how cute. Look at that little long sleeve. So that one's going to be going down the sleeve like that. That's one. And we'll do the same thing to cut another one. Thank you. Hi, Gifts HQ. She's on here saying, you can't go wrong with Crafty Gemini courses. I've made so many beautiful things over the years. Thank you, Vanessa. I appreciate that so much. Thank you. And you're welcome. I'm glad to hear it. I like that you all actually, you know, watch the videos and make the stuff. Because I make them and I'm like, I know this works. I've done it. This looks good. And then when somebody sends me a picture or post it, I'm like, okay, great. Now I feel even better. It actually does work. They were able to make it too. It's such a great feeling. So I'm going to fold this up again. Try to get as much, you know, I need enough width here. And this is cool because since the pattern is kind of splish-splotched all over the place, the sleeves will be different. Like this sleeve is going to have more of the aqua than the other sleeve. So that's cute. I love that. I don't know if my sister will love that, but. All right. Oh, good. Hi, Eileen. Welcome. She says, I'm retired now and getting motivated to start sewing again by watching your videos. I love it. Just jump in. Give it a go. Especially if you set aside like a dedicated time to do a project. You can just pick through one of my YouTube videos and say, okay, you know, this weekend or this specific day of the week, I'm going to sit down and make this one thing. Trust me, you might go into it thinking there's no way you're going to do it. And then when you do, right then and there, you'll be off and running. Missing a little piece there. Let's see. All right, notch, notch. Let me see what I got here because I have not decided if I'm going to, what I'm going to do for the sleeves, if I'm just going to, or like which ribbing to use, like what color ribbing to do. Let's see. Yes, Juana says, I love that fabric. Me too. Listen, so cute. Look at those little sleeves. So let's say like this. Like this. If this is not the best way to learn how to sew, I mean, this is a joke at these little baby pieces, okay? And that's the front. And then this is the back. I'm going to look through my ribbing stash to see. I love the way that I did that for the back. Super cute. And this is a nice lightweight, you know, French terry. So this will be good to just kind of throw over a little t-shirt or something, you know? So when they walk to the park or whatever, and then once you run around and everything, they can take the little sweatshirt off. So this should be good. But I need to decide The hemband we said we weren't doing. The cuff I will. So that needs to be out of a ribbing. This neckband here will be out of the ribbing so that it matches the little wristband ribbing here. And then the hem is just going to be turned under. So that's what I'm going to do. So I need to see which colors I have that would go good. You know, if something like a white would be the best option to kind of pull on this and keep it kind of neutral and let the tie-dye blotches kind of, you know, pop more than the contrasting bands. But I don't know. I have to play around with this. This is something that I have to do. Like with the ribbing, I'll put like a little piece there and a little piece there and then check to see, you know, do I like that for the neckband or here and here. But I may just do white. I have some other colors. I think I have, it's probably not like a coral color like this. I think it's more red. So I'll have to, the colors that I have that are kind of in this range, I'll have to put them there to see how it looks. Because you might be thinking one thing in your head, like, oh yeah, I have one that's a kind of teal color. And then you put it in, you're like, yeah, not that teal. It definitely don't match. And so then I'll have to, you know, come up with something else. But any fabric that has like a ton of stretch, it doesn't have to be proper ribbing. I could even, for something like this, because it's kind of a loose fitting sweatshirt, I could just do even a cotton spandex would work as the neckline ribbing and as the cuff here. So if I could get, I'll look through my stash too of cotton spandex. If I have one that's just plain, you know, that would go for both the cuff and for the neckband, then I'll do that. But look, that's it. Those pieces are cut. I mean, and then it's just a matter of like literally sewing shoulder to shoulder, putting the sleeves in, you know, like it's really not that bad. And I know a lot of people really are like clothes, I'll do anything but clothes. We're making quilts, we're making bags, but never the clothes. And this comes in 28 sizes. So give it a try. If you've ever wanted to make something simple like that, like a t-shirt or a pullover, you can't really go wrong. You know, even if it doesn't fit exactly, likely it's still going to be wearable. Because it's like, you have a lot of wiggle room in there. Plus, like I said earlier with the fabrics, if you're using a fabric that has more stretch than what is required, and this only suggests fabric that has 15% stretch in the crosswise grain. So any fabric that has more than that, you're going to have a little bit more built-in wiggle room. Okay? So definitely. Let's see. Elizabeth says, I would just use the same one if it has the right amount of stretch. Yep. It doesn't quite have as much. I could do a little sample run though and see, because remember it has about, what do we say, about 45% stretch in the crosswise grain. Not quite as much as ribbing, so it won't bring it in as much. So I'll have to try it out and see. But it might work, maybe. I could test it out and measure the, you know, like cut out a sample piece of the cuff and stitch it down one side and just pull it to see if it matches, or like without stretching it too much, if I can get it to fit in the opening. And if I can, then yeah, it'll work, right? Because this doesn't necessarily have to be snug down to here. It just needs to come in a little bit. And so this does have 40-something-ish stretch. So that should be okay. Let's see. Lynette says, I did check your videos, but do you recall if you have a purse organization video? I purchased one from Etsy or a video. Oh, like a purse organization video? You mean like an organizer to put inside of a purse? I don't have anything like that. I haven't done one of those. Lori's asking, could most of this be done on the serger? Absolutely. And in the video course, I have a bonus video lesson showing you how you would put it together with a serger and hemming with a cover stitch machine. So I tend to add those as bonus videos to all my garment sewing classes that do feature stretch knits. So yeah, you could absolutely whip most of this up. If not, let me think. All of it on the serger, okay? Like this sweatshirt one, yes. The kangaroo pocket and stuff like that, like if you're doing the hoodie, there are some steps where you will need the sewing machine. Not the whole thing can be done on the serger, but this one that I'm just doing like a long sleeve pullover with the neckband and the cuffs can absolutely be done the whole thing on the serger, yeah. Let's see. Oh, Karen says, where's the best place to buy ribbing? Address at Hobby Lobby and Michael's not there. Any ideas of online? So ribbing, like true ribbing, is tricky to find. Whenever we do classes that feature ribbing, we tend to sell knits so that I can source them in and then be able to sell them, because I'm like, you need the ribbing for the pajamas, you know, like the cuff of the sleeves or the cuffs of the legs. And so it's like, if you can't find the ribbing, you're not even going to be able to make it. So I purchase wholesale from different distributors. So I don't know to tell you exactly where online, but I think somebody here said that Girl Charlie has. Yep, Windless Original says that she's seen some at Girl Charlie. And I know they went through a change because they had shut down and then they reopened. So I'm not exactly sure the details, like if they're under new management or if they're getting different types of fabrics in, but they usually have a really great library, right? Store of just a ton of different types of knits, and you can search by the term that you're looking for. So I would try that and type in ribbing and see what pops up. Yeah, I don't really know anywhere else, and I believe that from the ribbing that we used to sell, like that, we're all sold out. So we'll see. Because sometimes when I get some in for like a specific class, then whatever we have left over, you know, we list it on the website. But I'm pretty sure we're sold out right now. Let's see. All right. Well, I think that's going to be it for me. I'm glad that I got this done while chit-chatting here with y'all. If you're a quilter who hasn't tried clothes, try clothes. And if you're a garment sewist who hasn't tried quilts, I feel like if you go from clothes to quilts, it's going to be way easier. You think it's going to be harder, but as long as you can cut precisely and sew straight, it's easier, I think. Because it's, remember, two-dimensional, right? We're thinking 2D, designing in 2D, and so you're cutting out that three-dimensional aspect of garments that have to then fit an actual human body. All right, so thank you all for tuning in today. I will keep you posted on how I finish this little Jalie Laurent in the little toddler size 2. And I will see y'all actually not next week. I have a kid that's turning 16, believe it or not. The little guy whose hands y'all used to see in my videos over a decade ago, yep. That kid is a solid 6'2" now and is turning 16. So next week we'll be celebrating his birthday, so I will not be going live for WIP Wednesday. I'll send out another email, and I have a couple of other things in the works that I'll be sharing with you via email. So make sure to stay tuned for that. And thank you everybody for tuning in. I hope you find some time to do some sewing or crafting this weekend, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your week. Bye, everybody.